Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video we're going to be talking about the September 15th ban and restricted announcement for the Grand Archive TCG that was announced at Ascent Taipei. Talk about what it means for the meta, talk about a couple lists that I think are going to get a lot better. A lot of champions are going to get a lot of better from this ban restricted announcement, and just kind of go over Weebs of the Shore's reasoning and kind of talk about ban restrictions in general and why I think this is a very good thing for the game. But we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out my Discord down below as well as a channel membership. And for any new people coming from the Grand Archive community, again, a special welcome. I always have a creator worksheet down below in the description. So if you don't like my content, that's completely fine. Go to the creator worksheet, go to the Grand Archive tab, and go find another creator. I'm going to try to build it out as I find more Grand Archive creators in the community that you hopefully will enjoy. But we have the September 15th ban restricted announcement. Really quick summary for my Flesh and Blood peeps, because I know I built the channel on this. In Grand Archive, Weebs of the Shore has set up a 3-category system for their ban restrictions. Category 3 is ban cards. They always give a reason as to why they ban them, when they ban them. Typically, before they get to Category 3, they go through Categories 1 and 2. Category 1 is like the lowest level. It's a card that they do not seem as problematic currently, but it could be problematic in the future, so they're keeping an eye on it, right? This is kind of like the, watch out for these cards a year or two down the line is my guess. To potentially move up in category. Category 2 contains cards that they consider very problematic even in the current environment, but they haven't quite reached that threshold to be banned yet, and they are being heavily considered for future legality changes. Typically, cards that get to level 2 go to level 3, so these are cards that you could expect at some point in time are going to get banned for one reason or another. And then when they get to Category 3, these are the banned cards in the game. As you can see, we have 10 current banned cards. This category contains cards that are banned restricted, and the one that was banned is Ryle the Abyss. A little side note, I was watching the Ascent Taipei, and they did a great job in the closing ceremony. That's when they announced this ban restricted announcement, and the uproar from the crowd in a positive way, like the reaction when they saw that Ryle was banned, you would have thought that it was like a set announcement. Like there was so much joy, which, teach their own, all that. I just thought it was hilarious. The crowd in Taipei kind of getting in a positive uproar for this card to be banned. So it's a 3-cost red fire, or not red, 3-cost fire card at fast speed. It says draw a card, then discard up to 2 Spectre cards for each additional discard. For each discard this way, draw an additional card. So the most mundane way I can explain this card for people who aren't familiar with the game is this allowed in the game of Grand Archive. You start at level 0 in a spirit. It's kind of like your identity in your deck. It's kind of like a champion or a contender in Alpha Clash or a hero in Flesh and Blood, and then you level up into 1, 2, or 3. This allowed you to go to level 3 very, very quickly by getting rid of cards in order to help level up. And so it took level 3 decks, which normally is like a mini quest, so to speak, to get to like your most powerful form. It made them be able to get to level 3 very, very quickly. Weebs of the Shore kind of talks about why they ended up banning Ryle. Ryle the Abyss is a card that we paid very close attention to since its release in Distorted Reflections, and it has several reasons that we'll cover what went into this ban. The first one was community sentiment, and I want to talk about that. A lot of people didn't like that. Grand Archive definitely has like staples for each element, right? Like wind, fire, water. They all have like these big ones. Like water has Frostborn Paladin. It's a very like staple card. It's kind of like a plug and play, very good card that you'll see in most decks regardless of champion. Wind has stuff like Veiling Breeze, Dream Fairy, and then fire has stuff like Creative Shock or these really like big engines that help kind of push decks forward, so to speak. So Ryle was a card that was like, if you were playing fire, there is no reason not to play this card because you're allowed to play the level 3 version of your deck very easily and just catapult yourself. So it create on top of that, it was all about, like, do you see your Riles fast enough? If you see them fast enough to go into level 3, there's not much the opponent can do. If you don't see them, it's a little bit rough. So it kind of created this luck element, which is what they talk about here in the first paragraph, that kind of created an unhealthy play experience. While the card is technically very counterable, and we won't talk about that in this video because I want to keep this video somewhat short. While I did have counters, it was like, do I see my dumb card before you see your dumb card? And you don't want that in TCGs. It's a very negative play experience. It's not very good. So I understand the reasoning for that. Their second reason said, while we appreciate the emergence of level 3 decks that incorporated the Raw package and thought it was healthy for the meta, however, we believe that these level 3 decks can still happen. Level 3, again, is normally a quest. It's very difficult. Level 3 champions have not always been in the meta because of how difficult it can be to get there, but they've slowly, like when the game first came out, everyone just kind of went to level 1 and 2 and just did ally, like, beatdown decks, and now you're starting to see, like, culminating strategies with level 3, and I think Weeps of the Sword is just very confident that they're going to continue to grow that out, so they're not worried about getting rid of an engine that, like, auto put people at level 3. And then they said, thirdly, we are electing to ban Ryle as opposed to earlier or later because, one, they wanted to give enough time for Ascent Boston and Ascent Taipei to take place so people could experience the meta and, like, alter and see how it goes. But now they're trying to get rid of the card quickly enough so that their capstone event in Akihabara is it has enough time for the meta to develop, right? So they're doing a good job at the timing with this. I'm okay with the ban. I do think that Ryle definitely had some counters, but again, it's kind of a luck aspect. Like, do you see your combo card before I see my card that stops your combo card? And you don't want that rock paper scissory of a format, right? So also, like, I think representation of Ryle really really sped up its reasoning to be banned. Like, we were seeing, like, insane level of representation for fire decks. It was like 70% on day 2 or something. And not just because of the power, but because of the amount of people playing it. And you don't want it to be that easy of a plug and play system. Like, yes, it's a fun aspect and powerful, and that's why people are playing it, but also you want to encourage people to play other things, try other things. So I completely understand their reasoning for that. The other one is Purifying Thurible. Now, for anyone who's not aware, again, from my other peeps and other card games, they have what's called a Proxia's Vault, which basically means they have cards that are coming out in future sets that are going to fix part of the meta, like you do in every set, right? Well, they have this vault where they basically say, okay, anything in the Proxia's Vault you can proxy and put in your deck and copy, like make a copy of, right? You don't have to buy it or anything. And they usually input these cards for a short amount of time in order to help fix the meta while waiting for the full card to come out. So Purifying Thurible came out, like they say here, one of the main reasons we inserted Thurible into Proxia's Vault early was owing that to what we felt was necessity to increase interactions against graveyard strategies like Ryle the Abyss. But now the Ryle Abyss is banned, Thurible isn't as much needed. So Thurible said, banish this. It comes from your material deck. Paying X, target opponent banishes X cards from their graveyard. If X is 3 or greater, draw a card into your memory. So this was a way to get rid of the cards and the floating memory and, like, all the other stuff that Ryle was discarding to kind of counter that, right? And now that Ryle's gone, this card isn't as much needed. It is going to come out anyway in the next set in December, Phantom Monarch. So really, really cool that they're able to implement this. So overall, I like the ban. I think it makes the most sense. I told some people in the Discord, I do think Luminal Guide, to me, isn't an immediate issue, so to speak. Like, it's not what needed to be banned to fix things right now, but I think Luminal Guide is much harder to design around than Ryle was. I think Ryle is a lot easier to be countered as well. And so I would expect, this is just my opinion, I could very well see us seeing Luminal Guide here in Category 1 here in a little while. I don't know how soon, but I just think that card's more problematic for the future of the game than Ryle was, but I'm not, like, unhappy to see Ryle banned, if that makes sense. So, like, what decks come out of this as very powerful, right, with Ryle being gone? When Ryle was in the format, it was very much like level 3 deck or die type thing where you tried to do a really, really, really fast type deck in order to combat people that were doing Ryle. So with Ryle gone, fire does take a really big hit, Water strategies are going to be able to come back into the format. Water was kind of like almost pointless beforehand. Now they kind of come back. The first one that kind of gets the best because it doesn't really get helped or hurt in a way. It's just one of the most solid decks in the format is my girl Tristan. Super excited to see her as one of the best decks in the format. Tristan's just good. She's a good solid deck. She has tons of toolbox, tons of ways to play into every part of the format. She has ensnaring fumes for all of the Gualja decks that want to bring out their big dragon. She has ways to combat allies with ensnaring fumes and cards like Veiling Breeze. She's very good. She can get around decks that are trying to stop her Shadow Strike with in-cap and with other ways of like stopping what they're trying to do. Spirel has been a fantastic addition to her in order to like stop opponents like key and negate cards. Then she can have sideboard cards like Resolute Stand, Zephyr, and now Noble Dissolution's another one that just helps with the Fractal game plan because I think Fractals will come back. We'll talk about that here in a second. So she's like the ultimate toolbox deck right now that has both an early game win condition with things like Sadie and Slice and Dice, and then she has like a mid to late game inevitability with Shadow Strike if you let her kind of stack her in cap, so to speak. So Tristan's in a very good spot. The next one I think is Fractals. I think Fractal comes back into the format a little bit. We just saw a Fractal list barely bubble out at Ascent Taipei, and I think Fractals will be good. One, because it's just a solid deck, very similar to Tristan, even with some recent bans it had. I don't think people are going to tech for it. I don't think people are going to go into the next big event with Fractal Hate in their deck. You will see some people that can easily run it, like a Tristan can run just like Noble Dissolution in the sideboard, but I don't think people are going to mainboard Fractal Hate like Disenchant or whatever the case Windex do, and like Scatter Essence. I think that Fractals just overall is in a very good spot, and it doesn't really get hurt by the Ryle ban. It actually gets help because it's mostly in a water deck. I think Fractals is a very good spot. Aerosana is kind of the go-to champion right now for it. Dao Chan's also a very good one as well. But I do think Fractals will be a key player coming up in the deck. The next one is any form of Guoja decks. Win Seiryu is probably the biggest one, right? Being able to bring out this big ass dragon and just like deal a ton of damage. Very, very good deck. A very difficult deck to play in my opinion. It has a lot of ways to interact with it, so you have to be able to play around those things. I think Wind is the most toolboxy and probably the biggest most powerful version. Like you have Seiryu, you have Water Gimbu. I think Gimbu is going to come up later in the format once people figure out like how to play around everything. Gimbu's I think kind of like the sleeper pick, but the Wind version of it, the Wind Seiryu version, is probably the other one. So I think Tristan, Fractals in some way, shape, or form, and then Wind Guoja is probably like your top three in my opinion. But you also have Crux Lorraine is still really good now. You can kind of go back into that. She has a lot of play in a lot of different things. It's going to allow people to explore water decks again. So you might see like a Water Diana come up. Who knows? But I think these three are probably your top three. Overall, I'm really excited with the meta. I play Tristan, so I'm super excited to see how this shakes out. We also have the upcoming Phantom Monarch in December with the new Crux Assassin, which I'm super excited about. But let me know what your thoughts are on this. I think overall it's good for the game. I think Ryle wasn't the most powerful card we've seen in Grand Archive, and it was counterable, but it just created these negative play experiences, and I'm glad that Weebs of the Shore is looking at banned and restricted just as much from a play experience standpoint as they are from a power standpoint and also representation standpoint, because the one good thing about Grand Archive that I love so much is it's a highly competitive TCG in terms of mechanics, but you have a lot of deck identity with people, and people will run things that they want to run just because they love the champion or love whatever, more so than most TCGs. So for them to be able to cater to both of those sides very equally is very, very nice. So overall, super happy with it. I'll link the article down below if you want to understand or read more for yourself and kind of understand the reasons behind their ban restricted update. But hopefully you enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, though, it's completely fine. Again, go to the creator worksheet down below, find another creator you like, watch their stuff. For any of my Grand Archive peeps that are new to the channel, please leave feedback on the channel. I tried to create, like I always say, I tried to be the feel of my channel is I want to be like a really senior, knowledgeable person in your LGS that you're having a conversation with. That's the type of feeling I try to portray. I try to have a conversational, more podcasty type content with minimal edits, but also have like a professional looking, presentation with like images and everything else. So I try to do a little bit of both. But hopefully you did enjoy this. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, also let me know. But thank y'all so much. Hopefully y'all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.